Welcome to the Soccer Coaching Podcast, where we will discuss all things that impact soccer coaching across all levels and ages. Please listen, enjoy, and share your thoughts on the discussions at the Soccer Coaching Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm your other host, Mark.
And we've also got a special guest with us today. We've got Lewis Bloom from Wycombe Wanderers FC. Say hello, Lewis.
Hi guys, you alright?
We're all good, thanks very much. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk a bit more about what we've got Lewis here today to talk about and some of the ideas we're going to go through. But just before, a catch up on the week, Mark. How's your week been?
It's not been too bad. Still getting over the humiliation of Queen's Park Rangers losing at Norwich.
I think I've realised since we started doing the podcast, I think QPR have won a game.
Well, you're right there. Actually, we're not won a league game. I think we got the worst record since Boxing Day in the entire football league. We've had one win since Boxing Day.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, the manager's been sacked, or he's left.
Have you applied?
I've put my name forward. Yes,
Yeah.
I've put my name.
You've got a fighting chance.
Yeah, I've got
you?
a very good chance. So it's not good, and we got Mill away tonight. Let's see how that goes. But we're slowly being dragged back into the relegation battle at the bottom there.
Well, it keeps it exciting, right?
Indeed, yeah, yeah. And you never know, we could be coming here next year actually to play Wycombe. So there we are.
Yeah.
You know, see what happens.
Lewis is being quiet.
With our
being
manager.
Polite. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but you should tell us a little bit about you were away at the weekend on a scouting mission.
I was, yeah, trying to recruit some under-7s from the Barcelona Academy. I went to Barcelona. It was the first time I've been there. Well, not to the city, but to the new camp. And I actually got to watch the game versus Atletico Madrid.
Yep.
Which, for those that have been there, it is an amazing atmosphere. It's exactly what you think it's going to be like. It just is 90,000 fans, everyone cheering, everyone celebrating. And, it's the kind of game that could have easily been a 0-0. Atletico Madrid defend quite well. And obviously when Costa got sent off, you kind of thought it's going to be a 0-0 now. But it was still quite an exciting game. And then in the last 5 minutes, we were at the end where Suarez got his goal and the place went absolutely nuts. And then 2 minutes later, Messi got his goal, and the place went like 3 times as nuts. It was just an amazing experience, really. I mean, I probably won't get to see, or certainly not that Barcelona team, but I probably won't see Messi play live again, and I probably won't ever see him score a goal live again. So for me, it was a bit of a moment, and it was good to see. It was a good experience.
And some learnings for the under-7s training next week.
Take the ball past the ball. Take the ball past the ball, as Pep says. It was good. I mean, it's funny watching them live because it is a very technical. You can see the difference compared to watching Premier League football.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, obviously, these players are second to none. The pace of the game is a bit slower. Still quick. Obviously, they pass the ball really quick. There's no doubt about that. But I would say they don't focus on pace as much as we do in the Premier League. You could see that, So it is about control the ball and move the ball a lot more than it is about trying to run with that ball fast up the wings or players' balls into channels up the lines. But good to watch. And wherever you sit in the new camp, you get a good view. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And we did the tour of the stadium, so we got to sit in the directors' boxes, and we got to sit in the dugout and see the pitch and see the changing rooms and stuff. So I kind of felt like I could do this.
Wonderful. So you put your name forward.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Come on, you be a QPR, I'll be at Barcelona.
Yeah.
So a couple of things from this week. We've had some good emails and some stuff through Twitter as well. So some questions and some bits and pieces coming through those channels. And also some positive reviews, again, directly through either iTunes or Stitcher, or some nice comments, again, through Twitter. So thanks, everyone, for those. Mark and I are still very much learning on this journey. And the point of the podcast has always been about us trying to share what little knowledge we have about development and football. But more importantly, getting people on with us to share their knowledge and input to help us learn, and obviously hopefully share some of that stuff with the people that listen. That's why Lewis is with us today. One or two things that came up, we had questions around the CTMs again, around collaborative training matches. So we will talk about that more probably in an episode or two's time. Questions around formations, again, particularly nine-a-side actually. I think you mentioned it in the episode before last about formations, so we'll cover that. And we had a real nice email from a gentleman called Alan around what he's doing with his club and putting through his own DNA document for his grassroots club, which sounds excellent. And I'm keen to take a look at that, and hopefully maybe if he's keen to share some of his ideas and what he's put in place, we can share that out as well, because it sounds like something that's really proactive on trying to create the best environment he can for the players they've got there. And questions around the whole England DNA and the Pete Sturgis event that we went on, and Hive and stuff like that. But again, I think that's going to be a separate episode for another day, if that's all right.
Yep, that sounds good.
So today, Lewis, it's all about you.
Oh, no.
So obviously we know you well, Lewis, and we're really grateful for you giving up your time today, especially during the holidays. And I know you've had a busy few days doing different things with Wycombe and,
no problem.
and the centre here. But just for the audience listening, a bit of background to what you've done, what you're doing, and what your current role is, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. So in terms of coaching, I've been here at Wycombe for 3 years full-time. 1 year prior to that part-time while I was studying for my master's degree. I studied for my master's in Chichester University, and that was a master's in coaching. So while I was doing my placement, I was lucky enough to be sort of helping the guys out at the EDA at the Elite Centre at Wycombe, and then I was offered a full-time job on the back of that to set up the girls programme. So our girls sort of development academy that runs alongside our boys centre. We didn't have one. When was that? Back in 2016, probably now. We didn't have one at all.
Yeah.
So my job was to come in, set that up, and hopefully make it as big or as successful as our EDA has been over the last few years. So yeah, that was how I started, and then progressed upwards. Obviously, coaching the Elite Centre full time, coaching with the Dev Centre part time as well at the same time, and running the girls program. And then last year, or September this season, I was appointed the Development Academy Manager job. So I took over from Chris Fraser, who you've had on the podcast before. So yeah, taking over that role now. So now, instead of coaching the players as I have been for the last 3 years, I've now had to learn how to coach the coaches and be more of a coach mentor, while also trying to get my hands as dirty as possible with coaching the players as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a difference, a good learning opportunity.
Yeah. So how have you found the transition then from coaching to?
It is different. it is very, very different. But a lot like we always talk about when coaching the players. Sometimes the most important thing is getting to know your players.
Yeah.
And getting to know your coaches, what motivates them, what they're here for, primarily. Yeah. And what really makes them tick, as well as, I guess, their coaching styles.
Yeah.
And what they're about and their philosophies as well, bringing that all together, if you like.
For sure. Yeah. I guess there must be some learnings as well as you're going through that process. You see different coaching styles, the way, I guess, people, some of the coaches deal with the youngsters. You must think perhaps that's not the way you would do it, but maybe there's things that you could pick up and learn. As you
definitely. I think shadowing coaches is usually the most effective way of developing yourself as well. So there's members of staff that we've got that have got years and years of experience, more years experience than I have, and I'm having to mentor those coaches. But it's a two-way thing where I might give them a couple of ideas, but I'll definitely be taking some back as well. And it is different coaches coach in different ways, so trying to think about what they're thinking, if you like, and why they're doing those interventions or why they're going that way about it. You've got to have a think about that before you can step in and say, do you know what, that's probably not what I would do.
Yeah, if it's working, it's effective, maybe, or give it some observation.
And that's it. You've got to think about, right, what are the players getting out of it, and then review it that way, if you like. Not just, right, I wouldn't do it that way, so I think it's wrong. It's actually, right, what are the players going to get out of that exact session, or that type of intervention, or that behaviour management style, whatever it is. What are they going to get out of it, and then reviewing it that way.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point actually in terms of interventions. We had a podcast a couple of weeks ago on interventions, and we were talking about this. Obviously, the different types of interventions you can do, and sometimes as a coach, you would do an intervention which you feel comfortable with, or the approach that you feel comfortable with. Actually, that may not be the best result for the boy or girl that you're coaching. And actually, you should probably come for it the opposite way around and think about actually what's going to be best for the outcome.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've tried to help the coaches with this season in terms of, right, well, what types of interventions are you using? Are they best fit for what you're delivering potentially?
Yeah.
Or are they best fit for the age group that you're coaching? Are they best fit for the actual players, rather than, like you said, sometimes you've got this whole sort of old school coach, or you've got the new school coach, and they're totally different. So one might be potentially doing more group interventions, whereas one might not do any interventions potentially, or very little. So that it is a fine balance between the two.
Do the coaches get to observe each other at all, or is it really you watching them and feeding back?
Do you know what? To be honest, that was the idea at the beginning of the season. Even speaking to the coaches when we did our sort of presentation, I know I spoke to you guys about the presentation before that I delivered, or myself and Kurt delivered to the coaches prior to the season. That was one of the ideas that we had, where the coaches would be able to go over and watch other coaches coach, because like I said at the start, that's probably the most effective way of learning. And one thing that I've picked up on the last few years is being able to shadow coaches that are a licensed coach that have been coaching for 20 years. That's the most valuable experience for me, to see what they do and why they do it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that was the idea at the beginning of the season. Like I said, it hasn't panned out so much this season. Maybe on a couple of occasions we've had the opportunity to do that, but not as much as I would have liked.
It's hard, isn't it, when you've got limited time, limited resources. But I think it's such a great learning curve, isn't it? Even when we do it at our club, we go and watch somebody else. And you always pick up something. You pick up things. Well, I would probably might not do that, but I'd certainly nick that little, even just a word, or something they do that's not even necessarily football related. It can be about the communication or the setup or where they put things. You always learn something, don't you, from seeing other coaches?
And even if sometimes I think, even if it's not the most experienced coach, or not the coach that's got the highest qualifications, sometimes you'll pick up things up off level one coaches or coaches that have just started, that might have a new idea that something you think, do you know what, I'm going to take that, and I might adapt it a little bit, but I'm going to take that idea and run with it.
I think it's a really good point. I was watching one of our under-7 teams play at the weekend, actually, and the coach there, it's a B team. So like we have I think we mentioned it before. We have kind of streaming at Ickenham, where we have A teams, B teams, C teams, and just the way the coach is relatively new in terms of being involved, but just I was really interested the way he had his kind of board laid out, and all the things on his board. He had this kind of a lot of stuff on there, and it was just really lots of pictures on there. So I'm kind of someone who just kind of has like maybe three bullet points: try hardest, play out from the back, or whatever the challenges are. But he had pictures on there, and I thought that's quite an interesting way of doing it, right? With youngsters, even probably under 10s, under 11s, they probably relate to that more than just having three kind of bullet points, which are very to the point, not very interactive.
And it's trying to hit those different learning styles of the players, and that's who it's all about at the end of the day. Just making sure that the players are learning. So whatever different style that is that they learn with, the pictures might be the one that's hit the nail on the head for 3 or 4 of those players.
Exactly.
They're thinking, right, well that I love that. That's what I learn, and that's what I take.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's about like having the variety, so you cover all your players and not one thing for everybody. And I think the whiteboard thing's funny, because we take the whiteboards to games, and you see people look at you thinking, "Oh, it's a tactics board here. You've got a bunch of under-7 kids. Would you guys got to be crazy, What do you think?" But actually, the stuff that's on the board is the stuff the players have created. It's things that work for them. So if you're looking at it from an outside point of view, you could get the wrong impression about the board. It's not a coach. We don't use it as a coach-centered tool. We use it as a player-centered tool. So the words on it are the words that they've used, and it's things they want and stuff. And they can be quite busy, whether it's pictures or words or whatever, diagrams, whatever we're using. It's what the players have put together over a season. Really, we usually recreate it for the games each week or training sessions. But you do get some funny looks from people, and even some quite negative response sometimes around it. But it's, we know our players, and you're trying to do what's right for them individually and collectively. And for some it's the whiteboard, for some it's something else, right? You've mentioned, before we go on to what kind of your day-to-day role at Wycombe, I'm sure no 2 days are the same, but we'll come on to that in a second. You mentioned EDA a couple of times, but I'm conscious people might necessarily know what EDA is, or what it stands for, and kind of what its aims and things are. Are you happy kind of trying to explain that to us?
No, of course. So our EDA is our Elite Development Academy. I wasn't here when it started, obviously, but a couple of 6-7 years ago, when the academy shut down, what happened was they wanted to keep what would have been our sort of academy running as much as possible, like a self-funded sort of academy, if you like, and that's what's going on at the moment. So our elite centre are a really strong group of players that we've got together, probably Cat 2, Cat 3 academy standard players that we've got together, and they train with us. In terms of what our EDA is for, and the purpose of the EDA is to stretch and challenge the most talented players from grassroots football, and help them to try progress to their full potential, if you like. So we have our 2 tiers. We have our elite centre and our development centre. And the objective of that, like I said, is to stretch and challenge the players that we do bring in, we do recruit to play to their full potential. We try to give them the highest quality coaching possible, to try to get them to that next level, and try to develop them as players, but also as people as well, if you like. So trying to develop their resilience or their confidence, whatever that is, to help them to be a better person, and player.
Okay. And just to be clear, the academy or the EDA is separate from Wycombe Wanderers Football Club, is it?
So in terms of the organisation that I work for, or the charitable arm of the club, if you like, so that's Wycombe Wanderers That's Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust. So we are a separate arm of the club, if you like.
Okay.
So in terms of the academy was run by Wycombe Wanderers Football Club, and then at the moment we're here to bridge that gap, if you like.
You obviously work quite close because we're sitting actually in the stadium looking at the pitch.
That's right.
So you're obviously close to it is really.
We do work together a lot in terms of the club and us. We do work together, and like you said, our offices are literally right next to theirs, and we live at the stadium. We are working together.
I imagine it probably feels like.
Sometimes a little bit too much.
And is there any links in terms of players moving when they get to a certain age, maybe towards under 17?
We've got a couple of different programs that we've looked at over the last few years, but nothing yet in terms of the actual first team, if you like. We do have an under 17/18s group that we do work with now, which is a new project that we worked on the last couple of years. So that's an under 18s program that the players play in a floodlit league on a Thursday, and they train with us midweek. So to giving them more game time, and potentially giving them the opportunity to showcase their ability on a more regular basis. So we have had a few scouts coming down to those games on a Thursday night, from different clubs. But that's sort of our route way, if you like. That's sort of our end product. If you like.
But you have players that are in the elite centre that move to maybe Cat 1 clubs or Cat 2 clubs.
So we're very successful in terms of the players that we do coach. They usually do go on, or not usually do go on, but a lot of them end up going to different category academies or full academies, if you like, and that happens quite regularly.
And how do you feel about that? Because obviously, it's success in many ways, isn't it?
That's right, and it's how you measure success. And in terms of like Kirk Williams, the EDA manager, and myself, we sort of sat down and what does success look like for us? And for us, that is that's the pinnacle, isn't it? That's what we're here for primarily. So let's help these players to progress to their full potential, and if their full potential is to go and sign for a Cat 1 academy, then fantastic. If their full potential is to sign a Cat 3 academy, whatever it is, that's brilliant. If their full potential means that they're playing grassroots football, then that's their full potential. That's what they're capable of. So it's how we get them there. And then when we do get them there, brilliant. That is what success looks like for us. So the players that go on, and you've probably seen our success stories in terms of we have a high turnover of players going on to academies, especially at the younger age groups. By the time they hit under 9s, that's obviously when they can sign their contracts. We do have a lot of players going elsewhere. But like I said, that's a good thing for us in terms of what we do, to showcase what our coaches can deliver as well. We do get a lot of feedback to say that our coaching is up there with some of the top academies around, so which is which is great.
Nice feedback, right?
And obviously
really
for us,
feedback,
looking at the part-time coaches, and it is primarily part-time coaches that we work with, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
So a big thumbs up or a big well done to them and a pat on the back to them, I guess.
And you're competing with some big local academies, aren't you? Really, I mean, in the area,
huge,
you've got some big competition.
Yeah.
So you're doing something right. Yeah. So back to you then, Lewis. Day to day, then. I mean, or week to week, if you like. What's your role involved?
So, being the development academy manager, obviously I work primarily making sure that, first of all, obviously everything's organised in terms of the sessions and making sure that everyone's getting there, or whatever that is. Making sure the coaches have planned their sessions, or they're ready to deliver what happens next. You guys have now been sent the sort of schedule, if you like, so that gets sent out every week with the Play the EDA way, which is our sort of philosophy. And I know you said about, was it Alan? Sorry, sent you in an email.
Yeah.
In terms of that, his own DNA. So we have a very similar thing at Wycombe. So it's called Play the EDA way. That's something that we put together at the beginning of this season, which details sort of our playing philosophy, in possession, out of possession, transition. We've got things on there like our syllabus. We've got the ways that we win. So we grade winning on 3 different things. First of all is being the best group of individuals or team on the pitch, and playing the right way, or if you like, or playing our way, playing the EDA way. The second is to be the most sporting team on and off the pitch and being the most professional.
Yeah.
And then thirdly is to win on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So it has those sort of details in there.
And that's quite nice, right? Because you take in the real emphasis away from winning. Like the winning, it's not all about winning.
Yeah.
It's about actually you're talking about development, the way they're playing, and actually what they're like, what the boys are going to be like as in the future in terms of teaching them team ethic and sportsmanship and things like that. So
yeah.
it kind of
and being professional, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's what, in terms of our aims to shape good people, is one of those aims. And that second point definitely does come down to that in terms of being the best sportsman on the pitch, and making sure that they're being professional. But yeah, it doesn't take the emphasis away from winning.
Yeah.
Winning is still part of football, and we're not taking that away.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of least important of the 3 ways that we do win games.
Yeah. Yeah,
I see. So it sounds like having that the EDA way, it's all about that's your philosophy and your principles. So to you, would you say having the right environment and the right culture is important? And having it written down is one thing, but do you feel it's lived and breathed here, and does that make an impact on how the coaches act and the experience for the players?
As much as it can be. We obviously, like I said, in terms of our staff, it's part-time staff, so we don't always get to catch up with them as much as possible. We do try our very best to make sure that every session we catch up and things like that. In terms of CPD, we could probably do a little bit more to help the coaches and really get nitty-gritty in terms of this is what we want in terms of the delivery. But yeah, for the most part, I believe it to be delivered on the field as well. Bringing that to life is obviously the hardest bit.
Yeah.
And we can always say that we do different things, but whether that's reality or not is a different story. But for most part, I believe we deliver what we say we do.
And when you're looking at bringing coaches on, I guess this is a big part of their induction program, so they understand what your philosophy as a club is and what you're trying to achieve through the program. So do you look for coaches that would marry into that quite easily? Is that part of how you recruit, or is that a luxury you don't have here?
I guess so. In terms of the coaches that we do have, though, I will say that they've been with us for years.
Right,
so the majority of them have been brought up on this sort of philosophy, if you like, because it's only this year we've put it on paper, and especially broadcasted it to all the parents as well, and said, right, this is what we're going to deliver. But this stuff has been going on behind closed doors for years because of how successful we have been and we still are. It's been going on, and a lot of the coaches have created that culture.
They're part of it.
So they're part of they live and breathe it, if you like.
Yeah.
So they are definitely a big part of it. Bringing new coaches in, it does take a little bit of a while to adapt to those sort of things, and especially sort of the language that we use sometimes, the key words that we're giving to the players. That is universal. That is universal for all of our coaches. We want them to use the same sort of language and key words and trigger words that we're going to be using. So if they do go from under 8s to under 9s, the same language is being used.
It's consistent.
If they do go from development centre to elite centre, the language is being used.
Yeah.
So across the board, we use the same numbers, we use the same trigger words, we use the same syllabus, we use the same formations. Everything is aligned, if you like, so that players making the transition are able to do that easily. And it's not a new system that they have to learn. It's not a new coach that they have to get used to as much, if you like.
Well, it's building on the previous year, on the previous season.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's continuity.
And in that document, obviously, we have our sort of age group specific focuses.
Right.
It's a primary focus for that age group, but not necessarily the only thing that they're going to develop in that time. So, for example, our 6s, 7s, and under 8s will work on dominating 1v1s. Okay. So we'll look to, can you run with the ball? Can you beat players with your tricks? Can you be ruthless? Can you be resilient? Can you use your body combat? Those are the sorts of things that we're trying to develop, and it is a big thing in terms of the culture.
Yeah.
That is massively important to get that right as early as possible.
Yeah.
So if we get it right at those age groups, then that's the foundations on which we can build on. So when we go to under 9s, 10s and 11s, we look at more ball sharing and how we can quickly move the ball away from pressure or whatever that is. We can work on ball sharing, and then it progresses onwards and we get up to sort of our under 18s, where we're now thinking about, right, as an under 18s football player, let's learn how to win games. Let's learn how to do those sort of things. So it progresses all the way up, if you like. So it's a big sort of stepping stones every step of the way, if you like.
Yeah. You've got the continuity that goes way through it, which makes sense.
Yeah. So kind of where do you stand then? So obviously we get there's a lot of you can read a lot of different things out there about when you're coaching, getting the foundation phase and really under 6s, under 7s, under 8s in terms of not sharing the ball. Perhaps you might limit some of the decision making a little bit by doing that. What's your kind of view then? You kind of mentioned that the EDA's focus is really about being this one-on-one domination.
Yeah.
Do you kind of introduce kind of sharing the ball at the younger ages as well?
So that's one thing that we don't ever. We still coach decision making at those age groups because that's still a massive part of the game. So we're not taking that decision making process away.
Yeah.
But the emphasis on what we're trying to do is defeat our players 1v1.
Yeah.
So a lot of our practices with the younger age groups will be based around 1v1 practices.
Yeah.
So one thing that I like to do when I'm coaching those sort of age groups is just get them straight in. Let's play 1v1. Let's just go. You play against your friend. You try and score more than he does, and he's going to try and score more than you do.
Yeah.
The hardest working player is going to be the winning player.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I try to throw in there straight away, but we've still got practices in there that are going to develop decision making.
Yeah.
And we always try to emphasise, right, if you're 1v1, brilliant, go and beat your player. With the younger age groups, go and beat your player. Go and dominate 1v1. If it's a 2v1, potentially you may now need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that's coached even at our under 6s. When to share the ball is a massive part of the game.
Yeah.
Beating 4 or 5 different players is great, but we still need you to make decisions.
Yeah.
And there are practices that we do where you will beat, or you'll have to try to beat 5 or 6 different players. That's brilliant because what we're trying to do is dominate 1v1s.
Yeah.
Can you be great with the ball at your feet? And we'll progress on to ball sharing later, but just make sure that in the game situations or wherever there is decision making added in, that you're trying to make the right decisions. That's still emphasised.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because we speak about this quite a lot. There's always a danger. The minute you say to players, like, just stay on the ball, they haven't got to think about releasing the ball or looking for the options. And
do they even need to get their head up?
Exactly that. It's exactly it. And they just beat legs. Now, you might well have a player that can beat 2, 3, 4 players.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. But at some point, that might become more challenging for them when they go into the next level of competition or things change for them physically or other players catch up with them. So if they've not had that cognitive challenge about actually thinking at certain times I need to release the ball, I think you miss out on a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
And again, we will come out to the Pete Sturgis stuff at a later podcast, and I'm all for it. And I think actually more touches than no touches is definitely better. But if you just take it out completely about the sharing the ball thing, I do think you can sell the players short a little bit. And we've seen what you do here at Wycombe, and I think you get the balance really, personally, I think you get it really good. The players are encouraged to stand the ball a lot and do the right things, but also you do a lot of passing. There's others, especially some of those Cat 1 centres that you speak about, that really you don't pass the ball, you just stay on it, pretty much all the time. And you can see their philosophy is probably a lot more around creating individuals,
Yeah.
you know, which you'd understand.
Which I do get that side of it, and we do try to introduce that in parts, but it's not all of what we do, if you like. So we definitely do try to encourage them to do that and be positive with the football. It's one of, again, our sort of trigger words, be positive. But it is part of that decision making as well.
Yeah, makes sense. You were talking about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and I think I interrupted you, didn't I?
Yeah, sorry, no, that was probably me going on an absolute... go on.
So you were speaking about, obviously, the coaching sessions, and those are evening sessions, aren't they? You run evening...
Yeah, so we run evening sessions every day of the week, actually. So in terms of our Elite Centre or Development Centre, we run 2 sessions on a Tuesday. Dev and Elite both run on a Tuesday and a Friday. Okay. So in terms of that, my job is obviously to make sure that we've got adequate staff at the venues and making sure that we've got the coaches that we want to be there and coaching to that sort of highest quality, if you like. So we grade ourselves on sort of our weakest members, if you like. So we've got to make sure that the quality is as high as possible in terms of the coaching. Day to day, I will then go round, if I'm not coaching, if I'm not sort of filling in the gaps sometimes, if you like, then I'll be wandering around, having a look at sessions, making sure the coaches are trying to do the best that they can, and making sure that the players are working just as hard as the coaches are.
And weekends and holiday time, because I know you have different plans on the holidays with the things. So what happens at weekends? What happens
so in terms of weekends, our EDA, we don't have any fixtures. We still run sort of our Saturday morning club, which is not part of the EDA but part of sports participation. So our Saturday morning club is for anyone to turn up and play, and especially at the younger age group, sometimes that's a sort of first stepping stone into getting into our under 6s or under 7 sort of development centres, if you like. So that's sort of our Saturday morning club that is run by our activity program manager. So that's that on a Saturday. We don't have any fixtures or anything like that. So that's sort of the
Is that because
biggest
the players
difference.
You have tend to be a grassroots club and that's their weekend time to be with their teams?
That's right, yeah. And in terms of setting up fixtures and stuff, that would cause a big impact on their junior clubs, and that would cause all sorts of headaches, I think, in terms of we're at the moment unable to sign players, if you like. So making them play on a match day on a Saturday or Sunday would be difficult because they're junior clubs, and they do get different things from their junior clubs. So they get their sort of more social side of the game, and whatever that is that they get on the Saturday is great, and they come to us for more training. And that's primarily what we do. We give them extra training and the highest quality training possible to progress them onto the next level, if you like. So they still play with their junior clubs at the weekend, and then during school half terms, that's when we have our fixture programs. So the school half terms, we play against a number of different pro clubs with both our boys and our girls centres. So we'll play against professional clubs during the school half terms, and that'll be a very similar sort of setup to what we have. So in terms of other clubs' elite centres, other clubs potentially shadow squads, and then our elite centre also get the sort of academy invites every now and then. As much as we can, if you like, we try and get as many of those showcase fixtures as we can, to make sure that we're at the right standard, if you like, in terms of what we deliver our players, what standard that they're at. So sometimes it's a good eye opener, but then other times it's actually really, really competitive, and we can really see where we fit within the ladder.
So it's a bit of a barometer, is it? The idea of those half-term matches is kind of to see where you're benchmarking against similar other clubs.
Yeah, so we play against different clubs at our own level. And in terms of our development centre, we are really strong. So we usually go and play against other clubs' elite centres. And our elite centre play against other elite centres as well. Just trying to make that as competitive as possible. Sometimes potentially our elite centre will play sort of a year up or a year up. Sorry.
I think we're going to come back onto match day stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just want to bring you back just to talking about coaches. So if there was a kind of coach out there listening to the podcast today, and they really interested in kind of getting involved in perhaps Wycombe or a academy of some kind, what would, as a kind of, I guess, academy manager or someone who kind of oversees it, what would you look for in new coaches? What kind of things? I guess maybe putting the certificates to one side. What kind of things would you look at when you for a new coach coming in?
first of all, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm has to be the biggest one.
Yeah.
Are they enthusiastic about, first of all, coaching and their actual personality? Are they enthusiastic with the players?
Yeah.
But also, are they enthusiastic about learning?
Yeah.
For me, that's probably, it is the biggest one. So are they going to come in and learn, or are they going to come in and sort of stand still, if you like, in terms of their development as a coach? So if you're a coach that comes in that is willing to learn and willing to adapt and willing to take on board advice, sometimes constructive criticism, are they able to take that on board and develop?
Yeah.
Or are they going to say, actually, no, I think I'm right? So for me, the enthusiasm with the players has to be there.
Yeah.
But then the sort of also willingness to learn and wanting to develop as a coach.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important part. And most of the time, you've got to go and shadow the sessions first of all as a coach. So if there was a coach wanting to come in, brilliant. Come and have a look at what our coaches do. Come and have a look at our players.
Yeah. And
really shadow and see what we do and learn our culture, if you like. Yeah. So getting on board with that side of it is important.
Yeah, it's good because we've seen, haven't we? I think like what you get from observing is you get a sense of what it is you're trying to achieve here and the environment you've created. So I think if you're not kind of the right coach, you'd probably disappear quite quick anyway, which is probably best for them and for you.
Yeah.
And if you get it, like which is pretty great what you're doing, then I think you'd want to be involved and you'd want to learn. It would encourage you to try and have the right mindset to
absolutely
give it a go. It's funny because the more you talk about coaching, the more it mirrors being a player, doesn't it? You know, the effort's got to come first and everything else, and having the positive mindset and wanting to learn and improve. I think coaching and playing is very similar, isn't it?
Definitely.
Ways, so we were going to talk then about, in your opinion, and I kind of, this is a very broad and open question here. Be as general as you like or as specific as you like, and it might be just your thoughts or maybe what you think from a Wycombe perspective. But we're interested to know what you think makes a good coaching session. We try not to be too preachy on the podcast about what we think is a good coaching session, although we did a whole podcast about it. But it was more just sharing ideas that we thought, and we weren't necessarily trying to tell people. But you've done this for 4 years. You're full time. You've been here for a while. You've done your master's in coaching, and we would certainly be interested to know like what your thoughts are and if there's things that we might have already covered, which is fantastic, and if there's new things, then we'll pick up some stuff from that as well. But just for you, what is a good coaching session?
I think in terms of what you guys have already mentioned, because I've listened to a couple of them before anyway, so
just
environment,
you said, didn't say all
just
of
a
it.
couple, you got another 5 to get to.
Environment is a really important one. Can they set the right environment as a coach? Can they set that? That's first of all. I'm not going to go into depth into that because I know you've already done that in the past. Yeah. So environment is a massive one. Yeah. Planning is really, really important. I think that is often overlooked by some coaches, and it really does help in terms of not just planning the actual session itself. I'm not really fussed as to what the session looks like, if that makes sense, but more planning. Right, what are we going to deliver today? Yeah. How are we going to get those outcomes? And what am I going to do in this session to make sure that I get those outcomes that I want? So that's the sort of planning that I'm looking for. It doesn't matter how detailed your drawing is of your session. I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I'm not even worried about what you're going to progress on to, not worried about your timings. Yeah. What I'm looking for the most is sort of, can you plan what you're going to get out of today? Yeah. Sometimes you can't plan that in as much depth as you like. Often sessions turn and twist however they will, with the players doing different things. So you might plan to progress onto this and this, but it might not happen, which is fine. But can we just plan as much as possible? What are we going to get out today, and how am I going to get that out of my players? Yeah. So I know you spoke about the sort of training matches that you're looking to do and stuff like that. Yeah. But what is it in those that you're trying to get out? Yeah. If that makes sense. What are you trying to get out of that? Yeah. And you spoke about counter coaching as well. Yeah. So counter coaching is a massive one inside your training sessions. So if I'm looking, and this is more maybe potentially the older age groups, but if I'm looking to develop whatever it is, playing out from the back, can I make sure that my other team that I'm not working with, my attacking team, can I make sure their emphasis is on as soon as we get the ball, can we score within 10 seconds? That way, I know that my team are going to get plenty of goal kicks.
Yeah.
So first of all, plenty of goal kicks means plenty of playing out from the back, and then we worry about the rest of it. So it's careful sort of planning considerations like that are going to help your session massively. Planning is probably the most important, or one of the most important. I know you spoke a little bit about interventions. I think interventions are probably the biggest part of coaching, aren't they, really, if you think about it, in terms of what is coaching and how are you helping these players. I think there's a sort of culture at the moment in terms of some coaches that I've seen, not working at Wycombe in particular, but there are some coaches that are very happy to hide behind let's let them play. I think that's sort of become a new big thing, if you like, with coaches. Let's let them play. I think sometimes there is a time and a place for that, particularly with junior club football. I think that can be a little bit more important in terms of letting them play. But definitely from our point of view, what are we trying to do? We're trying to develop these players as players. So making sure that we are coaching, and those interventions are really important, whether they are group, individual, whether they are questions, whatever it is, they are the most important part of a session. Yeah,
I think that's where the coaches really add value, right? You can create the environment. You can set the session up with 1,000 cones and it looks wonderful. Yeah, but it's
you do most weeks, don't
which you? I'm down to 400 now. So sorry. But it's those interventions actually where you really add value, and be it a group intervention, as you said, or you can just pull players out and have a chat with them, or you can have in the middle of the game and talking to players. I think that's where coaches really kind of add value, and that's where players really get the most out of it. Just little questions here and there, little.
It's that whole communication thing, isn't it? And it's an art, isn't it? Or certainly a craft, and we kind of got to keep working on it. And you made a good point about, just the game being the teacher. And I do like a games-based approach, but I do worry when I'm doing my sessions myself that am I not coaching enough? I'm relying on the game a lot. And it is a fine line between...
that's what I was going to say. It's definitely a fine line.
Getting in there too much or not getting in there at all. Yeah. And so, I think how you can set the training session up and the constraints you put in place, or the rules around the game you're playing, can do a lot of it for you. Yeah. But if they're not working, then you need to have that kind of what if you're planning. Okay, if it doesn't quite work, what am I going to do there? Do I have to kind of dial down a little bit to maybe something a bit more traditional, and maybe a bit more coach led,
and planning those interventions as well. That's something that you can do. Not always. You're not going to plan, right, I'm going to step in at 4 minutes 54 and I'm going to play. That's not how it happens. But actually planning, right, what am I going to deliver to which players? Obviously that becomes a lot more important towards the older age groups again. But if we refer back to the under sevens, it's when am I going to pull the players across, or what am I going to speak about to the whole group potentially? Yeah. What might I speak about to a couple of players that are struggling, or what are the flyers going to get? So the players that are flying in the session, how am I going to challenge those players? How am I going to make sure that everyone's being challenged enough to make sure that they're progressing throughout the session?
Yeah. So these are almost your coaching points or your coaching tips as well as your interventions, right? Yeah. So you're planning, you're preparing yourself in that situation where if one of the teams or one of the players is just really overperforming and finding it very straightforward, how do you then step in and actually make it more challenging for them? Yeah. And then on the other end, if you've got someone who's really struggling, how do you then help that person out? Yeah. And
it's your what ifs, isn't it? What if it's this? What if it's that? And giving that some thought prior to actually delivering the session. Yeah. I think the other thing that I found useful is, and certainly my better sessions work this way, when I see in my head what I think good's going to be. So I kind of think, what am I looking? What do I want to see?
What does success look like? Yeah. So what does success look like in your session?
Yeah, is literally that visualising it, and thinking actually even before the session. So when I planned it out, right now, what am I hoping to see on this part of my session plan? What should it look like in front of me? And if it's not looking like that, what do I need to do about it? Because I don't know if that makes me a visual learner or not, but I just think if I visualise it, and because when I see it, I'm like, bingo, I've got it, and now I can think about that progression or doing something else. And if I don't see it, then it's panic stations, and that's when I need to rely on maybe the interventions that I might have put in place on my plan in front of it, but ahead of it as a what if. But I think if you see in your head if you visualise what you want to see in the session beforehand, it certainly helps me when it clicks into place and I know I've got it. So you mentioned the environment, you mentioned planning, you mentioned interventions, which kind of comes on the communication thing. Are they the big ones? Anything? We're not missing anything out here.
I think they're the most important. They're the sort of foundations, if you like. Coaching, right? We could literally sit here all day, but in terms of that, they're the most important for me.
I love the fact that you kind of not gone, and I think this is where coaching's changed a little bit. You've not gone straight to you haven't spoke about physical stuff like the space or the equipment or the things. It's almost that it's very much second now, because without these foundations in place first, then the rest doesn't almost matter as much, does it? And I think that question maybe 3 or 4 years ago to most coaches, they would automatically have gone down the more like the physical stuff that we've got rather than some of the other stuff.
Yeah. And in terms of, going back to interventions, the time of those are really important.
Yeah.
So that does tie into ball rolling time, which is, again, another important part of the sessions themselves, but making sure that they're not too long so that the players are getting the right amount of information from each.
Yeah.
If you go and talk for 5 minutes, you can guarantee that by minute 2, probably just after minute 1, they're gone.
You've lost.
That's it. Game over. So you might as well stop. You might as well go and let them play again, because they're going to be switched off. The most important ones or for me, the most effective ones are the individual interventions. The ones where you pull players to the side, you have a little chat, you can challenge them, you can make things easier for them. Whatever you like to do, you can do that within an individual intervention.
And they're not under the pressure of other people listening to them, are they? They don't feel kind of... Yeah.
And it's important...
Especially kind of if you're in the right way, they can feel special with the moment.
It's definitely important to do both as well.
Yep.
So it's definitely important to bring players over when they make mistakes, but also to bring players over when they do things well. It's really important. Because otherwise, if you start bringing players over just because they made a mistake, all of a sudden you say, "Oh, Bob, come over here." Bob, I don't know one kid that's named Bob, by the way.
Good name to use it.
Come over here, and if it's a mistake, then they know that the next time they're getting called over, it's a mistake, or the next person that gets called over, it's a mistake.
Comes a punishment then, doesn't it, rather than
exactly.
a reward. Really,
sometimes just bringing them over and just giving them a high five and going, "Go back and do that again." Wow.
Yeah. And do you ever, if someone does something particularly well in a training session, would you ever then maybe stop it and then highlight the fact that they've done something really well and maybe get them to demonstrate again, or just literally talk through it?
Yeah, I've definitely done that before. It gives the player themselves something special to feel about. They think, I've done that well. Yeah. And again, we're looking at teaching players. We're teachers, if you like, in terms of teaching these players. So that is the one thing that's going to stick in his head after that training session. Yeah,
and also I think the other players as well, don't they? They get that, don't they?
Yeah,
kind of. Lewis got that recognition. I want a bit of that, so I'm going to raise my game now to try and get.
And usually, so we say a lot at Wycombe. Part of our philosophy is being the hardest working, rewarding that. Yeah. So let's reward what we're trying to develop as much as possible. So, are they the hardest working players? Brilliant. That's when I'm going to highlight that player. Yeah. Particularly within our ball mastery sort of sessions at the beginning, or the technical grooving side. Yeah. If a player is working tremendously hard in those parts, then fantastic. He looks like he's here to want to learn. He's going to try and develop. Trying to create that culture sometimes in the ball mastery sessions is quite hard, because it is very much self-motivated. The coach does have an impact, but it's down to the player how hard they're going to work. Yeah. So if you're rewarding that, even something as silly as an example that I used with the under sixes, I had a pen in my pocket, so I pulled it out. I said, right, the magic pen. And I said, right, so the magic pen's watching everyone now, and the magic pen is going to dictate who's the hardest working player. Yeah. So they've all gone absolutely skits. So they're running around, they're being like, they're doing tricks and whatever it was that I was doing. Right, come back in. Right, the magic pen has whispered to me. He said, "Billy, you're the hardest working player. So Billy, can you pick the next trick?" And little things like that. That's it. They're on board then, and they're done. So it's rewarding the hardest working player, or rewarding whatever you want to. What does success look like? Yeah. And rewarding those players.
Yeah, everyone likes a bit of recognition, don't they?
They do,
and a bit of competition.
Yeah, they do, yeah. So just a question, actually, something we talk about a lot, both on the podcast and outside the podcast. So ball mastery, we've both seen it in terms of what your kind of, I guess, your coaches do with some of the younger age groups, under sixes, under sevens, particularly. A lot of it is, there's a lot of unopposed work at the beginning, kind of grooving, maybe that's the word you used.
Technical grooving.
And sometimes it can be half an hour or so. and the boys look quite engaged actually through the process. So the coaches are very good, and as you say, they kind of highlight some really good things and the hard-working players. So it keeps the players very engaged. What's your kind of view that, I guess, in terms of unopposed practices? How beneficial do you think they are?
Every week.
Yeah, well, I'll ask every exactly.
Until you get the answer you want.
So in terms of that, again, the culture that's been set for the last few years, I've been sort of brought up in this culture. So yeah. I'm very happy to see 30 minutes or 20 minutes worth of technical grooving at the beginning or at the end of sessions. Sometimes they're best to do it at the end of sessions. Doesn't always have to be at the beginning. Yeah, I think that's a big important part as well. If the players are motivated, usually, like you said, so I don't see any problem with that. As long as they are high tempo, I think there is a time and a place, definitely, in terms of that technical grooving, because they have to get that from somewhere. If they're not being picked up on their left foot needs to be here when they're doing a Ronaldo shot, then they're not. Potentially, they'll practice it away from here, but we need to make sure that those technical details are correct. Yeah. And obviously, moving on from... We go from, obviously, under 7s working on 1v1s and their tricks primarily, so their ball mastery, how they can manipulate the ball with both feet, to our under 10s who will be working on ball sharing. It might be their scanning before they receive the ball. That might be their technical grooving for the day. Yeah. It might be receiving on the back foot. Yeah. That might be their technical. So there's I think for me, there's definitely a time and a place for it. Could you progress that on to being opposed? Yes. But they have to start from somewhere. So that technical grooving will have to start unopposed, or not have to, but you probably get most out of it if you start with unopposed.
It is quite impressive seeing how long your coaches get the players doing it for, and the players stay engaged. Because I was thinking if I did that in my session, I'd probably get 10 minutes of the players. Because I'm not probably the best at doing it. That's the difference compared to the coach you got here. But they're half an hour, 40 minutes, and the boys are still loving it and still playing.
As long as the coaches are enthusiastic and they've got a way of engaging the players, I think as long as the players are engaged and they're doing what they've been asked to do, rather than kicking a ball against a fence or whatever that is, then definitely. Go for it, because like I said, there's definitely a time and a place for it, and they do get a lot out of it in terms of their actual technical grooving. The details that we need at a high level, the detail has to be there, and they've got to get that from somewhere. For sure. Sometimes it might be too difficult to do that in a 1v1 situation, and they might not know the timing of how to beat a player with that trick. They might not even know how to do the trick first of all, so they've got to be able to get that from somewhere.
No more questions from the defence.
No, sorry. Are you for and you're against?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're not against totally, are you? You're not against totally.
Against, but
it's a good point, Mark. And I think the truth, and actually, I think Wycombe's a good example of actually doing how you can do it well if it's done properly. Yeah. The reality is, I'm probably not the best at it, so I steer away from it. It's just you gravitate towards things you're probably better at as a coach. I see its relevance. I think when you've got a grassroots team, there's this phrase, technically dirty. You know? And I think actually, because of you're limited with time, my case would be an hour or an hour and a half with the players that we get each week. The unopposed stuff, I'd go and do that in your garden, practice. If you love football, go and do these things. Now, I'm not trying to make a place for not doing it here, because I think you guys do it well. But I'm almost go straight into the more opposed 1v1 stuff. They won't get the technical grooving and the detail you're going to get from your coaches, from me. A, because I don't know the detail that well, but also B, I feel like I'm shorter of a time. There may be an excuse, but that's what it feels like. So when they get into 1v1, they'll learn to do a Ronaldo chop, not as polished as they would with you guys, but they'll do it in a way that works for them to beat that player in that moment. So it's just kind of that balance between, okay, what will you accept as technically dirty, and or what do you want to refine more, so they're more...
And like we said, or like I said earlier, planning. So you're prioritising there that actually you've got an hour and a half, so what's going to benefit these boys a little bit more today? Is it going to be that unopposed technical grooving, or is it going to be 1v1s? Yeah. If it's 1v1s, brilliant. Yeah, go for it.
And we do set them homeworks. We'll say to them, right, we'll do a skill of the day. Yeah. And usually the player of the week will pick the skill of the day to do as homework for that week. Yeah. So they can, we'll go and do your Maradonas or your Ronaldo chops or your Joe Coles and stuff like that. And we'll start the next session with them demonstrating what they've done a week. Now, to be fair, I mean, they're 7 years old, they love it. They will practice it. Not all players will, but they will give it a go, and they'll come back the following week and they'll want to show off what they've done. Sometimes they'll send us little videos through WhatsApp of them training and doing it all, So it's not unimportant, but but
no. But I think the point you make, actually, both of you make, really, is that you can do that in isolation, but you really need to need to practice it in a one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
Right? So you probably need that mix of really grooving and getting the technique right, but you've got to then practice it in a 1v1 kind of situation.
For us, obviously, we get the luxury of maybe coaching them. Obviously, it's a 2-hour session.
Yeah.
Our elite centre are 2 sessions a week from under 8s under 9s onwards, so they get a lot more exposure to it. And if you've got 4 hours with the boys a week, you're probably going to say, do you know what, half an hour of that or an hour of that we could spend on technical grooving.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you in terms of prioritising what's going to help these boys the most. If it's not that, then
you got to think about your time, right?
Yeah.
So if it's okay, back to the matches then, the holiday matches that you do with the players, because we've seen those as well, and they're great. So I think the question is really, how do the matches fit in with the training plan more broadly? And is there like a match day strategy, and does that vary from different ages? Kind of just tell us a bit more about how the matches work and how that fits in with training.
Yeah, so we have our sort of, like, you said about your boards that you take to training, to your matches. Yeah. So we have boards for every coach, for every age group that are set up. So we've got one laminate sheet that says play the EDA way, outwork, outsmart, outplay. It's just trigger words. The second sheet will have the formation that we're playing, the way that we win, how to play out from the back, how to press from the front. So it's just little diagrams for the boys to have a look at. Right, that's what we're doing today. So we've got these boards set up, and then on the back of that board, we've got team targets. So the coach will select team targets for that day. So it might be, so we have control and organisation. So when we're in possession, basically, and out of possession. So control is, what do we have control of? Like, what can we do when we've got the ball? Organisation is, what can we do to organise ourselves when we potentially have the ball? How can we organise ourselves? Or primarily when we don't have the ball, how can we organise ourselves? So they're the sort of boards that go out to all the coaches on a match day. They'll have their own team targets. And that, again, we spoke about ownership a couple of weeks ago, but the coaches do have a lot of ownership in terms of their targets that they set for the players on the day.
And they would link back into what you might have done in training. Is that the idea?
That's their obviously whatever they want to work on that day. It potentially, fingers crossed, will be something that they've worked on previously. Yeah. So it might be that they've worked on pressing from the front previously in the previous couple of weeks. Yeah. So let's go and show us that in a game scenario today. Okay. So yeah, that's what we do in terms of games. One thing that I used to do with my under 7s elite centre group a couple of years ago was actually put channels in the game itself. Obviously, we've got a great environment to work in terms of our games, because we work with coaches that are, a lot of them, primarily sort of like-minded coaches that are happy to experiment and stuff like that with what we do on a game day. So one thing that I did was put in just 3 channels into the pitch, or 3 lanes as we called them, and you have to occupy all lanes to be able to do whatever it is. Or can we challenge ourselves to cover all lanes when we score a goal, or when we recycle back to the goalkeeper?
And was
can
that
we
something
cover all 3
you
lanes?
did then when both teams agreed that, or was it the lanes there just for your team?
Just for my team, yeah. Right, so I all I said to the coach was, I'm going to put a couple of lanes on the pitch. You're happy with that? Just tell the players that you can either use them or you can ignore them. Yeah. They don't mean anything. They're not the goalkeeper's area, going long ways. They're nothing else.
Just to confuse
they're not to trip you up. They're just for me to help my players do whatever. So at the time, I think we were just working on, I think it was under 7, so we were working on creating space. Okay. So when we have the ball, can we try and occupy all 3 lanes, which means that we're high, we're wide, so that we've occupied all 3.
Yeah, it sounds like we're getting into the CTM kind of
Yeah.
And when we mentioned about doing these collaborative training matches, we did say that actually we think academies are probably the one place that maybe they do get used a bit. So it sounds like they are kind of being used, or you've seen them, or you've
probably
used
not,
them a little
probably
bit.
Still not enough.
Right.
But that's definitely something that when I listened to that podcast itself, I said to you guys, that's something that I've done in the past.
Yeah.
And we've done that side of it. I've done with my sort of younger age groups, but even with the older age groups, we've done overloads and underloads. So we play 4 quarters of 20 minutes, and we might play period 1, 11v11, period 2, 9v11, period 3, 11v9, and then period 4, 11v11. So just different challenges for the players to play in. And often what we've seen is actually when we're 9 versus 11, we're actually better than when we are 11v11. Occasionally. It doesn't always happen, but
you get the focus, right?
It is. It's different problems for the boys to solve. And like I said, different challenges and different ways to spice up the games program, if you like.
Yeah, but you see that in professional football as well, don't you? In terms of a match where a player gets sent off and they're then playing 10 against 11, and actually the 10 can be more effective than they were when they were 11 because they're more
focused, doesn't it?
They're more organised, and they got a bit more kind of bit between their teeth, kind of thing.
So. A bit under pressure here now. Then,
God.
I'm just interested to know whether or not you would do this. So the CTMs thing, would you consider possibly trying it out with an age group and one of the oppositions that you play against? I mean, don't say yes if you don't want to. But I'm just thinking here, like, you play relatively like-minded coaches, similar kind of backgrounds in the sense of their setups and level they're at with Wycombe. Would you consider approaching them at some point in one age group and saying, look, I'll tell you what, we want to do this. Would you be happy for us to try that? A bit like you did with your lanes, but maybe even agreeing up front and doing that. Or do you see them really probably not buying into it as much as you'd like and it wouldn't happen? And please be honest. Because
it's a real difficult one for us in terms of the games program that we do have. We only have 6 half terms in a season. So it is difficult and you don't want to take too much away from being a game, right? If you like. So that's everyone's sort of showcase and their time to showcase what they've had delivered to them. That's the only difficulty with what we do. If it was an academy-based project,
you're playing every week.
Then you're playing every week. So potentially that's something. But all you have to do, I think, with this, and I do get what you're sort of coming up with, and you're trying to get the coaches to set up a certain way or to challenge your boys. Appreciate that. That does sound brilliant. There's got to be ways though that you can just help your boys to do what they do, if that makes sense. So I know it is difficult with subjects maybe like playing out from the back or pressing for that does become a little bit more difficult. If you've got a team that's gonna, from a goal kick, they're gonna play long, how do you ever get the opportunity to play out from the back? Press from the front, sorry. It's not going to be possible. But there are little things that you can do, like adding lanes to the pitch, adding boxes. There are different things that you can do in a game practice that doesn't stop it from being a match.
Yeah, good point.
And I know that your collaborative training matches aren't taken away from being a game.
Yeah.
But it's just sometimes I think that might be a little bit difficult to set up. I think in your environment, great, because you get games every week.
Yeah.
In our environment where we play every half term, I think we'd struggle to do that.
Yes.
I think in terms of the things that we've done in the past, like underloads and overloads, that could potentially work, and we've done that in the past. But I think if you change the game too much and ask a team to play a certain way, that might start.
It's a fair point. Yeah. And you make a good point actually about the fact you don't have to do it. You can just focus on what you can control, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is trying to keep it as much like a match as possible. But it does need time planning, and you're right, with limited opportunities, I guess it's harder because you also want to see the players just play. And the idea of this for us wasn't about trying to take away the games we have at the weekends. We still want to keep those. This would be an extra thing. You'd be trading off something, wouldn't you, to do it? So
if you could, like I said, if you could have that as an added extra, brilliant. All up for that, 100%. But I think in terms of our environment, we'd potentially struggle with that, just being so few games.
I wonder if we could do. We could maybe do something kind of midweek thing again, but in a different thing maybe. Yeah.
So just a question, Lewis. And so, how do you then, after the games, which you said they're not after, but how do you then look back and reflect on the week? So presumably you literally have a pretty intense week with all the age groups playing every day. How do you look back on that week and then reflect on the different age groups, how they're performing, and then I guess overall in terms of the EDA, how they've done in that week? Yeah,
well, first of all, I've got to go to sleep because I'm usually up till 12 o'clock at night texting parents to make sure they're there or whatever it is. So that comes first. But no, in terms of reflection on the games themselves, we just don't do that on a sort of day-to-day basis, right? Well, how have they done today? Is there any common themes between groups?
Yeah.
So I know you guys were there when I had a chat with a couple of the coaches last time in terms of reflecting on the half-term fixtures in February. One of the big points for me, and even some of the games we've had against junior clubs, one of the big points for me was our transition, our negative transition at the development centres anyway.
So just explain for the... Just people that don't understand what a negative transition is, just explain.
So in terms of, you got positive transition when you win the ball back, and negative transition when you lose the ball. Yep. So when we lost the ball, it's how do you react? Are we organised when we're in possession, first of all?
Yep.
If we're organised when we're in possession, that helps. And it's how we can help the coaches to set the players up the way they need them to be in possession, so that when we do lose the ball, that we are able to react quicker, or we are able to slow the attack down as much as possible. Yeah. So that was one of the big things that I communicated to the coaches after half term, because not all of them can be away. Obviously, being an organisation where 80% of our staff are part-time, that's a difficult scenario when we've got half-term fixtures, when some of them have got full-time jobs. Yeah. So not everyone can be there. So it's communicating those points to the coaches afterwards to say, right, listen, this is something that I want to prioritise over the next 6 weeks, so that when we come into April or Easter half-term, that's something that we've worked on. Now we're solid on that. And to be honest, yesterday we were brilliant. So fingers crossed it stays the same for the rest of the week, or not this week, next week. Yeah. Fingers crossed we see that.
Yeah, it's good. Really good.
Super stuff. Lewis, last thing then, if that's okay. We just thought it would be a good opportunity to talk to you a bit about player reviews. It's that time of year, even at the grassroots clubs, where we start thinking about player reviews. And I've seen these done in different ways, different formats, and I've seen them done really, really well, and I've seen them done not so well. I wondered what your process here is around player reviews, what your thoughts on those are. Is there a good way of doing them, and is there a way coaches should avoid doing them, and just what your thoughts are generally?
Yeah. So in terms of what we've had in the past, when I came in a couple of years ago now, the report format, it was sort of a report, like a school report, if you like, and we had 6 different areas. Off the top of my head, it was taking and dealing with the ball, athleticism, so sort of how we move with the ball.
Technical, physical, it almost sounds like
so there were 6 different aspects that I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it was more of sort of a report. So the coaches, it used to take forever, honestly. So I was coaching at the time probably 60, 70 players across the week. So doing 60, 70 reports, and these were detailed reports. So
you're giving a summary in each section rather than just a grade. There was a summary
in each section. So in terms of that, it was a lot to read, a lot to take in for the players. Whether the players actually read that or not, I have no idea, because it was sent out to parents and stuff like that. So whether the players took that upon themselves to read that and really digest that information is a difficult thing to ask a 6-year-old to do.
Yeah. And just to be clear, Lewis, every player in the EDA and the Elite would have a review, a paper-based review.
That's right.
Then the opportunity to speak to the coaches twice a year, is it?
That's right, yeah. So we did a sort of a half-year review and a full-year review, where we had a detailed report on what they were strong at, what they weren't so strong at, and what they could improve. So like I said, that was a few years ago now, and they get the opportunity they receive their report, they can come in with their parents during the evening that they train, to see their coach, have a chat about the report, set them some targets for the remainder of the season, and then one at the end of the season that says, obviously, we'd like to invite you back, or potentially we'd like you to do this during the summer to stay with us, or whatever it is. Yep. So a 6-month report, if you like, and a full year report. Now we've sort of changed that a little bit, because we thought, in terms of the players, are they going to read that? Are they going to digest that information? Or is it easier to show them with a more visual sort of template that we now use? So we've got, obviously you guys have probably seen it, it's sort of a colour-coded based approach where they get sort of green if they're academy standard and they're absolutely thriving. Yep. Then a light green or blue if it's an elite centre, a yellow if it's development centre, and a red if they're grassroots currently. Yep. And then we rate them on a different a big scale of sort of different aspects. So ranging from personality, so their confidence or their work ethic, to their technical grooving side. So what are they like 1v1? What are they like taking and dealing with the ball? So we've got a number of different aspects that we sort of grade on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we come up with this sort of report that we give to the players. They can have a look at it. It's a lot easier to digest and understand because they've got now colour coding and they've got sort of a rating 1 to 10, if you like.
There's a written part too, isn't there?
There is a written part at the bottom with their super strengths. So we still highlight their super strengths, and what they're really good at, and we still highlight the areas that we'd like them to improve in the remainder of the season. And then the player, we also encourage the player to give us their super strength and their own learning objective. So what they would like to see by the end of the season from themselves as well. So it's a nice little approach where actually we're giving you this, but we're still giving you your own opinion. I might think that I'm fantastic at ball striking, whereas you might think that I'm brilliant at 1v1s, but I don't think that because I just see myself pinging the ball into the top corner. I don't see myself beating players.
Is that how you see them really, as a tool to kind of allow the player, and probably the parents in many cases because of the age of the players, the opportunity to see where the coaches see the player? Because you're right, they don't always get it, do they?
No.
Is that the main purpose of these?
And that self-evaluation is really important. Knowing where you are in the group and knowing where you fit and knowing where you are, what you're good at and what you could improve on are really important factors because, like I said, some players don't understand that they need to improve on this, so it's a good opportunity to speak to players and parents about those sort of aspects.
Would you?
I must say, I do like the fact that you've got that option with the two-way piece where you actually encourage the player to then give some feedback in terms of what they think they're kind of strong at. Actually, I haven't really kind of thought about that because Scott and I think we've seen the player reviews. And they are. I think they are a very good tool. In fact, so good that I've kind of taken some of the. It's not exactly, but
no. Listen, that's what the best coaches do. The best coaches are thieves, honestly.
Certainly, the colour coding I use in my
taking the badge off.
Taking the badge off.
Taking the badge off and
just
putting
pop Nickenham on the top there. It looks really good. No, but I've taken the colour coding. I have different categories and things like that. Because I think it's really a really good way of doing it. Because you're not. It's not kind of, especially when you're dealing with foundation phase players, you're not kind of really putting it in their face to say that this is what you kind of need to work on all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's not really showing. You're just making it. You're toning the message down a little bit. I think it just makes it a bit more.
I like the fact you marry it up with the personal as well, so you can have the visit and speak to the coach as well. So you get the document, you also get an opportunity to come and chat with the coach about that document and encourage the players to be part of that conversation. We've got one similar. We've kind of taken and tweaked it over the years, haven't we? It's different age groups. So I like your one, Mark, and we've got one for the slightly younger age groups. But I'll be honest with you, and this is a bit of a conversation I have to finish off with, just a bit of a debate, I guess. I'm a bit reluctant to use it. So I like what we've created, and I think it's good. I'm using it more as a reference tool for across our three teams in our squad, our age group. So when we're looking at players as coaches, we're being consistent in what we're looking at. So we've kind of divided up 4 criteria and some sub-criteria within that. So when we're looking at players, we can kind of agree where we think the players are. But what we haven't done is kind of put it out there and give it to parents. I don't know. What do you think? I'm just a bit. I don't know whether it's going to. These are 7-year-olds. I guess that's part of my issue with it. And it's very positive. So it's all. I mean, it's very. It could not be positive if the grades were poor, but the players are good and the grades would be good. But you're still looking for super strengths, but plus areas to develop and stuff. And I get slightly worried if I start saying to a player, well, you've got to improve, your work off the ball, or you've got to improve your defending 1v1. I get how that would go down with the players and the parents.
Yeah, and I think so. I've done it with my team. So I've been doing it probably for the last 3 years since I think probably we introduced it, and I've kind of taken it on. And I think I done it at the end of phase 1, which in our league runs from October to end of December, so I'd done like a phase 1 kind of player review. And to your point, you do get mixed feedback. Like some parents are like straight away saying spot on, absolutely captured it on, really really good. One or two come back and said, "Oh, I don't necessarily agree with this and the other." Yeah, they see it differently. And then I had a discussion,
isn't it? That is the point.
Yeah, and I had then had a discussion with them around how I saw that particular rating in that particular category. And then actually one of the parents just purely wasn't comfortable with the kind of rating on I think it was maybe particularly on a physical aspect, right. And they just weren't comfortable with what I'd given.
So what do you do in that situation?
I kind of just talk through how I kind of saw it. I'm very honest with the parents. I'm just going to talk through how I saw it or how I see it. And they still really weren't on board. I don't think they particularly liked. They didn't particularly like the fact that I was maybe giving.
Well, it's critiquing their child.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't think they like.
But you come from the best place. The best possible place. It must be different at Wycombe because obviously you've got the badge behind you, which carries a bit more clout than maybe our grassroots badge carries, and obviously as coaches as well. What's your thoughts, Lewis?
In terms of that? It's a real difficult one in terms of what you're grading because it is subjective.
Yes.
So unless you're going to speed test the players, unless you're going to do agility tests and stand over a stopwatch,
you can measure it.
Then that's where it sort of doesn't help, if you like, because they are subjective. It is your opinion, and one of the problems, or one of the things that we face at Wycombe is having players move from coach to coach. So if potentially we hopefully work on a 2-year cycle with our coaches, that's sort of the idea, so that they can get to know their players and whatever it is. So when that player moves on to a different coach but has the same report format, they can only compare to what they've received in the past. Now, coaches have different opinions. I could stand and watch a player now, and you could watch the same player, and you could watch the same player.
Different, right?
And all of us, I guarantee, would come up with a different report.
Yeah.
So that's where the things get a little bit more sort of difficult to grade and to judge, if you like. Yeah. So in terms of how we grade the players and stuff like that, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult, moving from year to year, or from coach to coach.
But I guess even a player then might perform different on a different coach, right? So how I was under you, Lewis, might be different from being coached by Mark. You don't know, it can make a difference, right? And how they respond. I guess the thing with reviews is it's a case of they can be a good tool when used rightly, but also they can be a problem if you don't manage it correctly.
If they're received in the right way, definitely, I think they can be a really effective tool.
And have the one-to-one with it as well, allow the conversation. And
one of the things that might be an option for you guys only working with maybe 12 to 15 players in your squads is actually having that on a sort of rolling basis. So not writing reports all the time, but one thing that we did, and this was for 500 players, so it was a logistical nightmare, so we didn't do it again. But so what we did is had all of the players and coaches' super strengths matched up with the players and the coaches' areas to improve, and we put that on a laminate sheet and had that on a board at every training session. So every player, right, I'm turning up, this is what I need to improve on from Jim, my last coach. This is what I have to go and do in the next 6 months.
That's a good point, because then it stays a working document. Dangerous as well that you do these things in the moment and you have the moment around it, good, bad, or indifferent. Then it gets forgotten about anyway, isn't it? You've got to find a way in which you kind of make it a usable tool.
Do you follow that up in terms of goal setting? Because that's what it is. That's what it's for. Yeah. To set goals, to help the players to improve. You've got to review that process. That's what I use our one for now. I mean, I use that just for my own reference tool, really, just to see where the players are at, where I'm seeing progress. And I kind of do it on a monthly basis, just keep a little record of where I think they are. But you're right, if you're going to give it out to parents and players, then it's got to be something you refer back to, right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, I agree, yeah. And I think the boys move up and down, don't they? Really, like, they might be on top form for 2 months, progressing. Then they can plateau, and then they can maybe dip a little bit, and then they go again.
Especially like you said at the foundation phase, that performance is always going to be inconsistent. A player that might be the top of the group at the beginning of the season might then fall to the bottom of the group at the end of the season, and that has happened and will happen continuously.
It's not linear, it doesn't go in a straight line, does it? We've seen it ourselves, haven't we, with some players that they have a month where they kind of fall off, or 6 months they can fall off quite, and they come back again, don't they?
Yeah, but as long as I think it's a really effective tool if you're using it properly and setting the players challenges, because that's what it's for. It's to set the players goals to achieve either by the end of whatever time scale you've got on that. It's what you're using to help the players to develop. So if it is 6 months, then let's look at something quite big for 6 months of development. It's got to be something quite big, but it might just be that you want to improve something on a short time basis. So you just want to improve his ability to perform a step over. That could be within a week, or that could be within 2 weeks that you want to see that development. So it's reviewing that process and making sure that you've got that sort of time scale to work on that, and review it.
I think it's the really good points, and I just think from a grassroots perspective, if you're doing this kind of thing, it's really making sure that you've got that engagement with the parents, so they know up front this is something that you'll be doing through the season. It's you do it to your kind of best of your ability. It's honest and things like that, and then you're open to have dialogue around anything that's on there. I think
that's a good point. Share it out up front in the season. Show the document blank maybe, and then everyone knows what's coming, right?
Yeah.
Guys, we've gone way over our time, Lewis.
Oh,
no. No, I'm sorry for you. We've said an hour. We've taken an hour and 20 minutes of your time. Is there anything we've not asked you that you'd like to say, or have we covered most of the stuff? Because if we've not said anything or asked you a question...
No, absolutely fine with me. And like I said, guys, there's so much that you can cover. So I'm glad it's only been an hour and 20 minutes. There's so many different directions you can go down.
Yeah.
One final question. Are we allowed to go and have a kick around?
Let's go for it. All right. Crossbar challenge.
Lewis, thank you so much for your time.
No problem, guys. Anytime.
We certainly found it really useful, and hopefully we can maybe do an update in 6 months or so time and see how things are going here, and any more tips and stuff you've got. I know you've got so much stuff we could have spoke about in this particular episode. It was hard to limit it down to a couple of things, but if it's okay, we'll get you back on at some point in the future and
definitely
go through some
more than
stuff.
happy to do it.
Right. Marky, what's our Twitter handle, do you know?
No, this is your piece.
All right, well, look, thank you for all the positive feedback we keep getting on Twitter and the emails. Please keep them coming. We're not too... Well, we do like the 5 stars and the reviews, but most importantly for us, if you can just share the episode out to people, if you think it's worth sharing, good, bad or indifferent, because the more people that get to hear people like Lewis talking about his experiences and what he thinks is good practice, then hopefully that's going to improve the sessions for coaches and for their players, and we all get a little bit better each time we listen to any of these episodes and other podcasts too. So you can reach us at Soccer Coach Cast is our Twitter handle, or info@thesoccercoachingpodcast.com is the email address. Please like the episode, please share the episode, and have a great week, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.